Hello, welcome back to Cracking the Cryptic, another fascinating puzzle on screen, which we'll get into in a moment. Thank you, first of all, for not savaging me in the comments in yesterday's video, where it took me about 2 hours to get through Vushal's incredibly tough puzzle. And I was terrified I'd been missing something very obvious, but the comments, although somebody very clever has picked up on something that maybe could have been done a bit in the early stages, it certainly didn't qualify to my mind as very straightforward. So I really enjoyed finishing that puzzle, maybe more than solving it. I certainly enjoyed finishing it, and I'm hoping for something a little more straightforward today, but you just never know what you're gonna get, Forrest. So we'll see what happens today. Fascinating idea coming up, which I will explain in a moment. Don't just attack this as a killer Sudoku. Wait for the rules or read them carefully. Now, Simon has been, I think he's loaded up a couple of pre-recorded videos for this week. So I've had a look at the birthdays just to see if we're missing anything. And if Simon has done a couple of these shout-outs recently, then I apologise for doing them today. But I think that a couple of days ago, it was the birthday of Theodore Toms, son of Caitlin, who I think is 14 or something like that, and they watch the videos together every day. That's brilliant. We absolutely wish you the happiest of birthdays, Theodore, and stick with the channel. It's always good. And yesterday, it was the birthday of Roger Usher, who was turning 75, the father of Dr. Adam Usher, a respiratory consultant who has been unbelievably busy during COVID, which was when he found us, and we were an essential means of relaxation for him. And he's got his father into the variant Sudoku as well. Well, that's brilliant. So we're very happy with the Usher family. Good luck to them, and happy birthday to Roger. And then today, I know Simon did mention this, but he's not mentioned it today. He mentioned it a couple of days ago. But happy birthday, John H. in Wisconsin, husband of Gillian, who is being provided with a chocolate cake with a 1-to-1 ratio of icing to cake, which is obviously correct. I bought myself a Christmas Yule log yesterday, which looks like a very similar ratio, and I'm looking forward to that over the festive period. Now, that is definitely all happening now. In terms of what's going on the channel, there are still 4 days left to enter the Skunkworks competition on Patreon. We will come back to Skunkworks in a second. This is the 100 4x4 puzzles in the Snack Doku competition. Really, really fun. Loads and loads of entries. One yesterday by email. We've asked for those entries to be on the Google form linked in the document. So try and get them in on that. And what else we got going on? We've got, of course, all our apps. Great Christmas presents they make. One of them is a killer Sudoku, of course, app, and that's got 100 puzzles in by some great authors as well as ourselves. And Sven's Sudoku pad and our merchandise, which includes holiday merchandise, all on the links under the video. But the first link is to this puzzle, Killer... Oh, I'm also going to say, thank you very much. Oh, I noticed, yes, Wordle in a minute. I'm going to mention that. Every day I post a video of me trying to solve the previous day's Wordle in a minute. Why do we do the previous day? Because we can't control the thumbnail, and therefore there is a chance of it providing a spoiler. If we were doing the current days and if you were trying to not watch that. So we do the previous days, or we show what we did the previous day, and I try and get Wordle done in a minute. And what I noticed was that when Simon was wondering why YouTube was showing us having done 1,000 uploads in the year, I think he forgot that we upload Wordle in a minute every day, and that's providing 365 of those uploads. We have been going for 2 years doing that, and very nearly 4 years doing 2 videos a day. As much as it's great fun, it does get a bit wearing sometimes, the schedule. So we plug away though, because we know you love the content, and we want to keep bringing you these incredible puzzles that get sent. And also, thank you very much to everybody who's been very kind about my appearance on 4 episodes of Countdown. That little run is now over for this year. I'll be back on January the 2nd, though. And yeah, thank you. I wasn't always thrilled with my performance, but it was always good enough, so that's fine. And thank you. Yeah, the comments on that have been incredibly kind too. So there we go. That's tidied up a bit of stuff. I am also going to now mention another birthday because Riff Clown, great friend of the channel, one of the doyens of Skunkworks, I'm so sorry, of Skunkworks, that's an unfortunate Freudian slip, wrote to us to say that the 14th, that's 2 days ago, was Virtual's birthday. Virtual is a member of Skunkworks. And Riff Clown was recommending a puzzle that we might do by Virtual, which is a very good idea. So I'm a couple of days late, but I'm going to have a go at this today. And that is where this puzzle has come from. I think this is Virtual's debut on the channel. So very happy and only slightly belated birthday to Virtual. And if you are sending us birthday requests in the next few days, don't be shocked if they don't turn up on the right day. That's all I will say, because if you are relying on me looking at our email over the next couple of days, that's a bit of a broken reed. Right, we shall look at the rules now. Normal Sudoku rules apply, hooray. We're going to be putting 1 to 9 in every row, every column, and every 3 by 3 box. Every marked cage is either a killer cage, a look and say cage, or both killer and look and say. Within killer cages, digits must not repeat and must sum to the total given in the top left corner. So that would be, if this was a killer cage, this is normal, there'd be 4 different digits adding up to 28 in this cage. That is what I would call a normal cage. Within look and say cages, the ones digit of the number in the top left corner indicates a digit that appears in that cage, and the tens digit indicates how many times the ones digit appears in that cage. Okay, I think we can say that a bit clearer. So in a cage with apparently 17 as the clue, that might actually be saying for a look and say cage that 1 7 appears in that cage. It's specifying the number. This, if it's a look and say cage, is saying that 2 3s appear in the cage. So that's how look and say works. You look at the number and say the 2 digits, and that tells you how many of a particular digit appear in the cage. For clarity, say the rules, digits may repeat in look and say cages. I think we've made that clear. Oh, even if they're also killer cages. Okay. Now, here comes the interesting part of the rule, as if it wasn't interesting enough already. Each cage is part of an island formed of 3 cages, all of size n, where it's possible to reach all 3 cages by travelling only orthogonally through cages of size n. Within these islands, 1 cage is a killer cage, 1 cage is a look and say cage, and 1 cage is both. Oh, well, that teaches me. I was thinking that there would be no instances probably of cages that were both. There clearly are instances of cages that are both, and we can work out how many if we count the cages and divide by 3. I think there are 15 cages, so there are 5 islands of 3 cages each. And in each island, 1 is a killer, 1 is a look and say, and 1 is both. Wow, this strikes me as a complicated rule set, but who knows how the puzzle will solve. Give it a try if you've understood those rules on the link, the first link under the video. Thank you if you contributed to our Kickstarter. We're really looking forward to bringing you that. And I'm going to start now. Let's get cracking. So let's look at the cage sizes. Yeah, there are very few 5-cell cages. So this is 1 island. That's a start. It's said that the islands are of each, in an island, each cage is size n. So that's 1 island. Now that 4, I don't know, if I understood these rules right. Yeah, okay, look, these are separated out. That is another island. There, those 4s don't touch the other 4s, which are all over here. Let's give them, I mean, I suppose we'll go for a third colour. I may be removing these colours later and trying something else, because who knows how they use. That must be another island. I mean, I think we found the islands. Yeah, I was nervous that the rules allowed us to travel through one island to join bits of another, but that clearly doesn't happen given how the shapes work, so that's fine. Now, these are the islands, and within each island we have one killer cage, one look and say cage, and one that is both, and all of the numbers look designed to me to allow each type of cage to exist. Okay, I'm going to start with the idea, and I don't know where to start. I was going to start with the idea that one of those cages at least has 2 3s in it. Okay, I am going to start with that, because in each group of 3 cages, 2 of them act as look and say cages, one of which is also a killer. Now, in this case, one of these must have 2 3s in it. Now, that cage cannot add up to 23. 15 would be the maximum. And therefore, it only acts as a look and say cage. The other cage can only act as a killer cage, because it can't be, you can't get 2 3s into both of these cages, because that one would need the 2 3s there and there, that one would need them there and there, there'd be a clash. So this is the cage that acts as both. I'm going to put B for both in it, so I remember that. B for both. And we can have L for look and say and K for killer. Now, I don't know which of these is which, but this B for both cage definitely has a 7 in it, because it's got a clue that says there's 1 7 in it. It also adds up to 17, so the other 2 digits sum to 10. And these include 2 3s and 9, 8, and 6. The killer cage will be 9, 8, and 6. Oh no, okay, within normal, well, for clarity, digits may repeat in look and say cages, even if they're also killer cages. So the look and say rules override the killer rules. However, so we won't actually get a repeat digit in that cage because they're all in the same column. And Sudoku rules override look and say rules. Anyway, blah, 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 Mark. Shush. Move on to this pair of 22s because they look interesting as well. No, I won't move on to those. I'm going to observe that either that's a pair of 3s or that's a pair of 3s. And either way round, 3 is in one of those cells in box 4. And for all of these cells, their digits can only be selected from a pair of 3s or from 6, 8, 9. Right, then I'm going to go to these 22 cages, one of which has to obey the look and say rules. Well, it has to be this one to have 2 2s in it. We can actually write those 2 2s in. This cage, this now can't obey killer rules. This one must obey killer rules because it can't have any 2s in it. And therefore this one is the both cage again, and again has 1 7 in it and a pair that adds up to 10. So this is now not a 7 by Sudoku. This adds up to 22 and doesn't have a 7 in it. This is 985. That digit we are told nothing about. This now has to have a pair that does add up to 10 as well as 7, and we've used 9 and 8 in the box, so it's got to be 764. So I'm going to remove all the corner marking. We've got a 1 and a 3 left to populate the box, and we've kind of finished with light blue. I'm going to take out the colouring. With our pencil marks, we've achieved what we had to in light blue. This digit is not 2, 4, 6, or 7. It's not 5. because this cage needs a pair that adds up to 10 in it as well as the 7. It's also not 3, because that would put 2 7s in the cage. So it's 1, 8 or 9. And the remaining digits in the cage as well as the 7 are use the complement of whatever is in row 3, column 5 to make 10. Right. Now I'm a bit more scared of the 4-cell cages, which seem to have a lot of options. And no, okay. Well, yeah, they do. This one could have 2 6s in it. This one cannot have 2 8s in it now. Because if you put 8 there and there, you couldn't populate this 22 cage, which needs an 8. So this doesn't obey look and say rules, so it is killer only. That gets it a K. Therefore, it does add up to 28. It does use a 9 and an 8. But then we don't know. Then it's 7 4 or 6 5. Now, the other 2 purple cages must obey look and say rules. So this one does have 2 6s in it. I don't know whether they obey killer rules. One of them does and one of them doesn't. Now, this one adds up to 12. Those would have to be a 9 and a 5 to make it obey the rule. This one does have a 4 in it. And that 4 is not in row 3. So it's here in row 4. The other 3 digits might add up to 10 if this is also a killer cage. Now, this can't have a 6 in it anymore, of course. This is now 9 8 7 4. So I'm going to take out the K. No, I'm not going to take out the K, actually, because we still haven't identified the both and the look and say only. Okay, but that's progress again. 4 6 7. Right. I keep looking at reds. This doesn't have 2 2s in it because they'd be in the same box. So this is killer only as well. Okay. This is killer only. So it adds up to 22. So both of these do function as look and say cages. This one must have a 9 in it, consequentially. This one must have a 4 in it. We've now put 4 in one of those cells, so those aren't 4. We get the 4. The 9 is in one of these cells. That's not a 9. Now one of these 2 has to be a 9. I'm getting a bit hung up on thinking there has to be a 9 in this group of cells, but I don't think I can do anything with that now. Does that add up to 19 or does that add up to 14? This definitely adds up to 22. I was going to sort of do some holistic maths on box 4, but I'm not going to bother now because I know from the fact that that is killer only that one of these is look and say only and therefore doesn't have to add up to its number. In fact, specifically doesn't add up to its number. Wouldn't it be wonderful if Virtual had built in something, a final disambiguator, that one of the cages mustn't add up to its number by virtue of the island rule? Anyway, this, can it be a 9 5? That would fix this whole cage. 8 5 9 would all be done. If this was 9 5, that would have to be a 4 7 pair. This would be 1 8 3. We'd have 2 5 9 here. Wow, it would be very prescriptive. Okay, this is not a 9 5 pair, and it's taken me some looking ahead to work out why, but it's actually quite straightforward. There's a 9 in that cage, and there's a 9 in that cage. That uses up the 2 9s in row 1 and 2. So we can't have another one here. Therefore, this cage now does not add up to 26. And that tells us nothing about these digits, but it does tell us that this cage does add up to 14. Now, I don't know if there can be a different repeat digit in this cage by the rules. We said, for clarity, digits may repeat in look and say cages even if they're also killer cages. So that seemed to override the rule about ordinary killer cages which couldn't have repeats in. Now maybe it was only referring to the digits that are look and say digits, but maybe it wasn't. What I'm going to do is assume that this cage could have repeat digits in it. It adds up to 14, it's got a 4 in it. The other 3 digits add up to 10, but I'm going to allow them to include repeat digits in. Well, 1 digit repeated. If necessary. Right, there's a 4 in one of those cells. Now I'm going to finally look at the 5 cell cages. Now, one of these two has 3 2s in it. And those 3 2s are either going to be there, there, and there, because they all have to be in separate boxes, or there, there, and there. So one of those is a 2, and one of those is a 2. Wow, I mean, this is a lot of pressure on 2s, and 2 is a candidate in this cage at the moment. No, one of those 2 is a 2. So now 2 can't be in box 5 anywhere else. So now that can't be 8. This cage is definitely 179. Let's get rid of the corner marks. We know it's a 179 cage. 2, 2, 2. Which one doesn't work? Or 2? Oh, well, this one doesn't work. You can't put 2s in columns which already have 2s. It took me a while to spot that. Right, these are 3 2s. Now, this cage obeys look and say rules. Can it be a killer cage as well? No, because these 2 cells would have to add up to 26. So this is look and say only. This one can't be look and say, it must be killer only, and this one is both. So it not only has 1 9 in it, it adds up to 19. Right, so the other 4 cells are 1, 2, 3, 4. Now it's hard to put a 2 in this. It's got to be here. Brilliant. So that is 9, 1, 3, 4. That cage is obeying both. This cage is only a killer cage. It's got a 4 in it. Actually, that's significant because this one must obey only one version of each digit rules. So it's now got to have a 9 and an 8 in it, and it can't have a 7-4 pair to make up the 28-bit. So it's 9, 8, 6, 5, 4. That's good. This one, neither of these can be a 9 because we've got a 9. No. That one can't be a 9 because we've got a definite 9 somewhere in this column. I mean, this looks like quite a hard set of digits to accommodate here. Even here. Okay, I don't know what's going on. What I'm going to do next is fill in the remaining digits in row 9, which are 5, 6, 7, 8. And I'm then going to consider that this cage adds up to 22. Okay, that hasn't really narrowed that stuff down much. Just as the fact that one of these has 2 3s in it meant that one of these 2 cells is a 3, it also means that one of these 2 cells is a 3, and therefore this up here is a 1. Now this top row needs a 3, and that goes in the corner. That's 3 in the corner. That's 3 in the spotlight. Losing its religion. Right, these must have a 4 and a 7 in it, so this can't have 1. These must have a 5 in them, so that can't have 1. So the row 1 has been quite helpful there. Now, didn't I put a 3? Look, I said I'm putting a 3 here, and I wrote a 9. That's very daft. So let's correct that. That was meant to be a 3. Those 2 3s say there's a 3 in one of these cells. There's also a 2 in one of these. And these digits can't be all that high because of the 14 total here. They can't include an 8. Oh, they could if one was repeated. Okay, I'm going to back off from that a little now. what is worth thinking about? Is it 2s? Yes, that's a 2. 2 is definitely worth thinking about. I might be able to finish off 2s. I've got 2 2s left to put in. Oh, one's there and one's there. The bottom one is interesting because it's in the 22 cage. Now that's started to make it perhaps deducible. If that was a 5-6 pair, then this would be 2-9. If that was 7-8, 15, that would be 2-5. Well, it's certainly not 1 or 3 in that cage, because then we couldn't get to the total. So the 1 and the 3 in the 1 and the 3 in box 7, 1 has to be confined to one of those cells. 3 has to be confined to one of those. Now, that means this is not the 986 killer 23 cage. This must be the one with the 2 3s in it. There we go. That's not a 3. This is the 986 cage, where the rule about no repeats does apply, because it's killer only. This can be anything according to its cage. This one, we know that's 4, 5, 6, 8, 9. Right. Do we not get some sort of quintuple or something going on somewhere? Apparently not. I want to say that can't be a 9, but I haven't got that right yet. If that was a 9, we'd get all sorts of 9s placed in the puzzle. Actually, I wouldn't be confident about that last one, so no, let's leave that alone. Well, this is a great puzzle in that if you look at the right thing, you can make a quick and crisp deduction. If you look at the wrong thing, it's a bit more complicated. I dare say I've done that a bit. Now, there is a 4 in one of those cells, so none of these have a 4 in. Right, now that is good, because I don't think 4 can be in those cells. If that was 2 and 4, this would have to be 9 and 7, which is not possible. So this is now a 1-4 pair, and we can fill them in. See, that is the sort of thing I'm talking about the, if you get the right deduction, it's quite clean and crisp. Right, now here in this 19 cage, I was going to say it has to add up to 19, but I don't know that. In this red island, either the 19 cage adds up to 19 or the 14 cage adds up to 14. Both obey look and say rules though, because this 22 cage doesn't. So there is a 1. No, that's not what 1-4 means. Sorry, scrub that. In fact, there is a 1 in this cage by SUDOKU. That oft overlooked but very helpful mechanism. Right, I'm sure we've got progress that can be made here. Okay, maths. 22 plus 8 there is 30. Now, I'm sure you know the total of each row, column and box in a SUDOKU, but if you don't, it's 45. Don't share that secret with everyone. These two have to add up to 15 as a result, and 15 is either 9-6, in which that would be the 9, or it's 8-7, in which that would be the 7. So we are down to fewer possibilities than before. Now that means these cells must include a 5 and a 6, and of course a 4. These two cells see all of those cells. Therefore, they can't have a 6 in, or a 5, or a 4. They can't have 4, 5, 6 in. They can't have 7 in from that. They can't have 2. 1, 3, 8, and 9. Now, there is definitely a 6 in that pair. Therefore, I can take 6 as a possibility out of a couple of cells. And this is where I'm not finding the next good deduction. So I'm sort of scrunching around, removing some possibilities. There seems to have to be a 5 in one of those. No, that's not true. That can't be a 4. In fact, 4 by Sudoku has become here. 1, 2, 4. That's a 6, 8, 9 triple. So everything else in the column is 5 and 7. Now, if this added up to 14, you could have 7, 1, 2. Or 5 there, 3, 2. That's interesting. If it adds up to 14, if it is the killer... Yeah, if it's the killer cage, that's a 2. If this adds up to 14, it's got 4, 9 and 1 in it, and then it would have to have a 5 in it. Four, 9, 1, 5, 3, 6, 7, 8, that would be 2. Okay, that works perfectly well as well. So we can't do anything with that. I've just noticed we've effectively finished with the blue colour. There's nothing else we can do with that. We've still got to make this cage add up to 14 though. These cells are from 1, 5, 8, 9. That can't be a 9 because the cage could never add up to 14. There is a 4 in this half. If that was an 8, well, maybe you could put 1s in both sides. If that was a 5, there's a lot of ways of doing it. Oh, that was the killer. This was the look and say. I might as well just note that. And this is the both cage. Don't want to suddenly forget that. This was obviously the look and say only. This was the killer only. Yeah. Effectively, yellow has been done. Once we obey the rules, the pencil marks, yellow's done. So it's getting to a stage where it's almost just Sudoku and not variant Sudoku anymore. But that's worrying because I'm struggling a bit if that's the case. That cell can't be any of these 4. It sees them all. So the digit it must be in this cage is that one. Those two have to be the same. Now, the other thing about that is then this cell sees all of 4, 5, 6, 8, 9 because it sees all those. So that is definitely 1 or 3, which is unsurprising, but we have at least proved it now. 7 in this column has to be there. That's a weird hidden single, very difficult for me to find. It doesn't really do anything. Well, there's a 7 there, there's a 7 in one of these cells. It does that much. 2, 1, 7, 9, 6. There's a 6 in this column, so that's not 6. That's not 1 or 9. 3, 4, 5, and 8 to place. That one is 4 or 5. It's seeing an 8, 9 pair that I've only just spotted. The other digits in the row are from 1, 4, and 5. So it annoys me that in a look and say cage, once you've got the two, in a look and say only cage, once you've got the 2 digits that it uses, that it mentions, these two just can be anything. Now, maybe it's 3s I need to focus on. I'm very close to actually getting through this. Still need to find something. It may be all about which one of these is genuine and which one genuinely adds up to the right total. So if that's 9, 5, 1, that's 7, that's a 6, 8 pair, and that's 2. I mean, that all seems to hang together to me. But the alternative is that this adds up to 14, in which case we have a 2 here. This now doesn't have to have a 5 in. The trouble is, I think that's much more open-ended. Maybe I should look at this digit and where it goes. If it's a 9, it can go in that cell in box 8. But if it isn't, it would have to go there. So whatever yellow isn't here because it's not a candidate for that. It's not here because it's not a 2. And these yellow cells rule out all of those. So yellow goes in one of those 2 places. Ah, this is interesting. And then yellow in column 5 goes in one of those 3. So yellow has to be a 9 now. Bingo. Right, yellow is 9. That might advance us significantly, actually. That takes 9 out of a lot of cells. All of those at least. And that one. And those 2. Probably more than that still. That one, for instance. Now, 9 is in one of those 2. We don't know which yet. 9 is in that box and this box. But it's in one of those 2 cells. Oh, yeah, we knew that before. Ah, these 2 added up to 15, didn't they? So that's 6 in the corner now. And now this red cage is a 2578 cage, which obviously does add up to the right digit. Let's remove the K corner marks and just leave it as 2578. This is not 6 in the corner. Nine, 1, 7, 6. Looking down the middle column again. This, I don't know, 3, 4, 5, or 8. I can't see a way of choosing that. Ah, 1, 7 pair there makes this a 3. Now that could get interesting. This is not a 3. This one, 2, 7, 9, 3, 4, 6. Ah, 1, 5, or 8. Part of a 1, 5, 8 triple. Yes, which makes this a 3. We needed a 3 up there. Now, this purple cage adds up to 14, and it's got a 4 there. So the other pair in it, apart from 3 and 4, add up to 7. They don't include 8. They either include a 2, which they cannot in this box, or a 6. So that's what it is. 1 there, 6 there, 4 there. That cage is finished. I think we can remove all of these corner marks. In fact, we can remove purple as a colour because we're kind of finished with understanding it now. Excellent. Now I think we've got enough to really crack on if I just work out how to do that. Those can't be a 1. That can't be a 1. That is a 1 in row 2. That is not a 9. 7 and 9 are in that group of cells. This is the only place for 1 in column 4. There's a 1 in one of those 2 when we get there. 4 and 6 are in that group, so 4 can't be here. Therefore, 4 is placed in this 32 killer cage. How are we doing on 4s? Only got 5 of them in. That's not a 4. One of these 2 is a 4, so one of these 2 is a 4, and that's become a 1-4 pair. That's not a 4. 6, 9, 1, 7, 2. I'm looking up the. I keep looking up the middle column, getting nothing more from it. That's 5 or 8. So this is where 6 goes in box 5. That sorts out 8 and 6 there. And that 8 doesn't seem to be doing anything. Now, this cage, if it added up to 14, we must put 2 and 5 in. But if this adds up to 19, it's 9, 1, and 5. And then that's 2, 7. So this cage, actually, I think this has been true for a while. I just haven't worked it out. This cage cannot have a 2 in it. No, that's not true. That's only true if it has to add up to 19. Okay, slow down. If this cage adds up to 19 now, it is now 9, 1, 5, because it has the 9 and the 1 in it. Yeah. then 2 has to be there. But if this adds up to 14, that needs a 2. That 2 has become fixed by the work we did. Now we still don't know which of these 2 red cages adds up to the right number, so I can't fill that digit in, but that 2 was necessary either way. That's very neat. That's really cutting edge setting, actually. It's very clever how this puzzle has been constructed. I'm an admirer of it. Well done. Virtual. Now, that can't have a 4 in it because of this 1-4 pair. 6, 1, 4, 2. That's not a 1. So this is, oh no, that's not a 1. We've got the 1 in this cage. One of those is a 4, one of those is a 9. How is that not resolved at the moment? I don't know. Five, 8, something here is, oh, one of those is an 8 in this cage. That's huge. Right, that fixes this whole top box, the corner box there. That puts 8 here. That was huge. Absolutely vital information. 5, 4. Now everything is unwinding at the top nearly. That is going to unwind things further down the grid and really make this accessible now. 4 there. That's a 9. That's a 3. Let's get rid of that colouring. And we'll get rid of yellow now. We don't need it. I'm still leaving red because we still don't know quite how those last 2 cages work out. This has become a 7, 7, 8 pair in the box. That's a 5. Not purple, that's a 5. Now this is a 7. And now we know that this cage does not add up to the right total. Therefore, this cage must, and in fact does at this point. This is 1, 5, 9. We have some pencil mark adjusting. We can get rid of red basically now as well. We've done all our colouring necessary. And that becomes a 1 by Sudoku. 5, 9, 1. This 6, 7 must be doable. This is known, that's a 5. And these aren't. Now, there's a 7, 8 pair, so that becomes 5 in row 8. And this, don't know, 6, 1, 4, 2, 5, 3. We need an 8 in the column. There it is. That's going to sort out all the 7, 8s, which is helpful. Put in 6 in the final box. We really are just finishing off now. What a lovely puzzle. Very good puzzle, very good recommendation from Riff Clown, as you would expect. And that is great fun. Oh, I didn't get a tick. And that's the last digit. Well, I've just put 2 3s in this final column. So that's part of the reason I didn't get a tick. But what is the reason why I've put 2 3s in the final column? And 2 5s in this column. Oh gosh, this is worrying. Everything looked like it was working great. And now it's suddenly fallen apart. 4, 8, 14. Where did I have the right to change 3s and 5s round? If that's a 5, that becomes a 3, but that ruins this one. Oh dear, 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 dear. What have I done wrong in this puzzle? I mean, this is distressing. For a puzzle to go wrong right at the end. Means that something has gone wrong earlier, and there is a very real fear that it was much earlier. I'm really quite shocked by this. 5, 13, 20, 22, 19. Where am I going to have to unwind back to in this puzzle? I've probably miscalculated something. Maybe in a killer cage. Or okay, hang on. Let's go forward to this point. No, to that point and just see. That adds up to 17. It was in an island where that had to be. That adds up to 23. This adds up to 19. That adds up to 22. That adds up to 19. They're all good. This definitely, well, does it definitely? 15, 24, 32, yes. That adds up to 14. That adds up to 28. This is 22, and that's 17. So all the things I thought were adding up do add up. This is really surprising me now. That has 1 4 in it. That has 1 9. This, I'm just checking this. This has 3 2s. That has 1 9. That has 2 3s. This has 2 2s. That has 2 6s. So all the, and that has 1 4. So all the look and says I was trying to achieve work as well. Now, okay, if it's not just 3 and 5, if there are other digits that can be shifted around, where will they be? See, I don't think that 3 in the corner can be moved. I think this has to be a 5, but that's going to mess R. It could mess with 1 and 5 there. What if they were in a different order? Is that all it's going to take? I think it is. I just was premature in putting 1 and 5 in over here. Oh, I'm keeping my fingers crossed. Let's try it this way round. 5, 1, 5. 1, 3. So it's just those last 5 digits. Whew, there we go. What a lovely puzzle. That's really good. Oh, this makes me sad. This has only been solved 17 times in 200 days. Give it another solve. Go on. You know you want to. Thank you very much, Riff Clown, for sending that in. Happy birthday a couple of days ago to Virtual. Hope you enjoyed getting a feature on the channel. I think it still means something to some people. And we will see you again with more tomorrow. Bye for now.